to rock and roll. Stream should be back up and running, folks.
Oh, what the fuck? Dude, I've never watched this mixer shit, and it's fucking confusing me. I'm exiting the app. Coming back down to earth.
Alright.
Listen and fight.
And now my music crashed because of launch mixer. Thanks, Xbox One Original Edition.
This is your champion.
Alright. Coming back to the fucking game. I'm here. I'm ready to kill.
VGV Immortal is the jump master. So let's see how dumb they want to be.
I want to know what VGV stands for.
Very giggly veteran.
Vagina's got to be one of those V's. I don't know which one though.
Very goopy vagina.
Oh, gross.
I mean, right? What else could it be?
That's the only, yeah. Damn, we ought to have like a radio show that only lasts for like 20 minutes or something.
So we could talk about goopy vaginas and then get off the air?
Basically as good as John Tesh's radio show.
If only I knew who that was.
Some famous piano player. But he has this show that comes on sometime on some station I listen to. Forget what it's called, but like he like hosts this music. It's just music and shit. But like he hosts the show, and he basically looks up shit on the internet that he thinks is interesting and shares the advice. But it's like a bunch of really pop culture-y bullshit that's fucking stupid. And he makes money on it though, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, they have those. They're called podcasts nowadays.
Right, but this is genuinely on FM radio. But yeah, it is like a podcast, yeah. I forgot what he calls it. It's something real super corny though.
The Goopy Vagina Show.
Hold on, I gotta Google this shit because it's fucking stupid. Yeah, it's basically the Goopy Vagina Show.
I mean, that sounds like a winner.
According to Wikipedia, John Frank Tesh is an American pianist and composer of pop music, as well as a radio host and television presenter.
Yeah, he is. Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm taking all the ammo, but I can share it with you if you want it.
Oh, okay. Okay. He calls his little show, or at least a segment of it, Intelligence for Your Life.
That is dumb.
And, like, for instance, he'll share the results of some interesting scientific study, but at the same time, you can make a scientific study about anything you fucking want to.
This is true.
And he'll pick some stupid ones. And he acts like it's like really like 45 seconds remain. Germane shit that you need to know
shit
for your existence, and yeah, Jermaine Dupri. And like in reality, it's just some stupid shit that maybe they did one study about that's probably contradicted by 20 other studies and shit like that.
Oh, I hear a thing. Oh, there's a thing right there.
Oh shit, yeah, there
it's
there
blue.
it is.
Go gold, go gold, go gold.
Oh, I thought, oh, It's usually so quick. I thought it would go gold. It's not even a vault thingy. It's just some old bullshit.
Friends, there is an extended energy magazine here. Level 1. Shotgun bolt here. Level 1.
In progress.
Heads up. The ring's moving.
We should get
But
going.
yeah, like for example.
Oh, they set a portal for us.
Yeah, yeah. Where should we? Where do you want to go? You want to go
Towards
the?
our teammate.
Oh, okay. Hold up. I'm looking for you.
This
I'm
way.
looking for you. Okay, I'm coming to you. Oh, the other day did one about like how like support representatives for companies. They used to tell them to say like, "How can we help you?" You know what, Joe? I'm too drunk to explain this. I'm just gonna play the game.
Sounds good. But he's basically a douchewagon. Is what you're telling me.
He's a piano playing douchewagon with lots of money.
He's a penis head. Where you going? Come back. Oh, I don't know if that's. No, somebody's throwing grenades at our teammate. Oh.
Oh shit, I'm coming.
Nice shooting.
Got one. Oh, I'm dead, man. Here's his. He's getting his buddy up. He's about to. Yeah, kid. He can't shoot your boxes. He's right here.
What? Oh.
Oh, his buddy's right there too. Damn it.
I got played. I got played like a pianist.
Yeah, we gotta. I feel like we're in the warm-up phase.
I hope
now,
we're in the
you
warm-up phase because we're can only go up from here. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. Hey, dude, let me take a tinkle. I'll be right back.
Bum 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 bum. What? Get 10 stickers for $1.
Yeah, I'm back. Give me just a second. I'm just lighting my heater. Dude, I went to buy some flooring for this room I'm painting the other day, and I went up to this Home Depot. That's like my local, most local one, you know. And this shit was like $285, or no, $289 no, I'm sorry, damn it, $285 a square foot, right? And I was like, dude, I could have sworn I paid like $1.89 a square foot for this shit like a year ago.
Inflation, man.
And well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But like this Home Depot, they had it in stock when I went, like a year ago, and when I went this time, it was like an order item, right? And so I was in like another nearby town with a Home Depot, and I was like, you know, maybe at least I got to do this room, so maybe at least they'll have it in stock. So I went by there, and it was like an item they didn't have to order, right? And they had some of it in stock, and it was $1.89 a square foot. I was like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, and I was like, so I ordered some because it's like, you know, huge savings. It's like over $100 in savings or something, you know, because it's like 100-something square foot room. And like, I was telling the guy, and he thought it was weird too. And I was like, and you know, like they don't have it as an in-stock item anymore. He's like, oh yeah, the prices can change when it's not an in-stock item. I'm like, what the fuck? This is the same company in locations that are like, I don't know, 60 miles away or some shit, maybe less than that.
Right.
And like one of them selling it for $1.85 a square foot, or $1.89 a square foot, and one selling it for $2.85 a square foot. I'm like, dude, that's fucking ridiculous. That it's that much of a difference.
I mean, yeah, but it's, I don't know. They do it because they can.
Let's land here.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, so like, who
you ordered it on the internet, so you pay $100 extra for a room.
Which, it's strange because like people who order it on the internet, you think they'd be more likely to shop around because it's easier to shop around.
Yeah, just go to a different website. Yeah,
I don't know. Oh my god, look at all these fucking people. What is happening?
Yeah,
where are you going, Super John? You're like,
yeah, I'm
going on.
Where do you want to go?
Let's go in here.
You want to
with Super John?
Okay. Yeah, just might as well stick together, I guess.
Oh my god, there's somebody here. Oh my god, there's
oh
right
shit!
over there.
I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun. I'm totally fucking
Come on,
screwed.
Super John.
Damn you, Super John! It's all your fucking fault.
I'm getting executed because Super John wasn't so freaking super.
He was not. Oh, shit's going down. Oh, two of them are down. There's one kid right here. Oh, he's getting his buddy up. He's getting his buddy up right there. Somebody else is running in. I don't know what's happening. Shit was crazy.
Yeah, man, that was rough.
Super John beat me by 3 points.
Well,
but at the same time, it was his fault we all died. So
yeah, I mean, Super John's gonna have to
feel like
catch a beating when I see him.
That's a deduction. That's right. Damn you, Super John. Super John wasn't a John.
He was not.
Where the fuck is Grim? You know, is he out there with his work buddies?
I don't know. He's probably doing some silly shit like that. Probably. That's what I would say. He's definitely doing some.
Instead of his gaming buddies. And in your case, his home slices. I mean, what the fuck?
Home slice. I mean, you're his home slice. Don't let him tell you any different.
Thank you.
So, I fucked up, man. There was some, there was two things. I saw something that looked like it was a post from friends, that said like they were asking for like donations because one was like, I need help for my two moms, and it was like a lot of the people don't know about me is I have two moms, my mom and her life partner for 30 years, and when I was reading, I'm like, wait a minute, is this really from who I think it's from? So I went to go back, and I don't know what I clicked, but like maybe I clicked refresh. And so like reloaded Facebook, and I have like no idea where that was, or like.
This might be a good place to land.
But like I really want to like look and see if it's who I think it's from, because It's not a big deal. I don't really care. I'm all for everybody loving everybody. But just something that I never knew about this guy. But it might have also, he might have just donated to it, and that's why it was on my feed. I don't know. But I want to know, so I'm trying to figure it out, and I can't because I'm clicking the wrong fucking buttons because I got fat ass fingers. It's basically the moral of the story. So.
Dude, self-deprecating humor is some of the best. But so what's the rest of the? Was there more to the story than what you were just saying?
No, I'm just trying to see it. I'm trying to find it to see if who I think posted it. Just because like I thought it was from a friend of mine, and I started reading it, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I definitely did not know that like he had a mom who was like a lesbian and has like a life partner and like.
Some of that lady jizz.
Yep. Well, that's precisely what I was saying. And I'll leave that there. I need to heal up.
Oh shit. Oh, I'm fucked. I was shooting really good, and then I was shooting really bad.
I got a
Oh, gotcha,
I'm healing
bitch.
up and I'm coming to you. I got a Phoenix kit for when I get you up. Don't worry, I'll save you.
Dude getting his buddy up right here, or he's trying to.
Alright, go get him, buddy. Go get him.
He's
Disco
running.
Stew.
He knows he's.
Oh, I see him.
threatened.
He's on the wall. He's not on the wall anymore.
Yeah. What up?
That's how you shoot that 99.
Yeah, lady sperm in
Lady
your face.
sperm.
Lady sperm bukkake.
Alright, I got a Phoenix kit for you.
That's an anime term, right?
Here, no, put that down. Put that down. Stop it. Cancel that. Zero. Cancel.
Oh, okay.
Take that. Take it. Take that.
Canceled
Take that.
Canceled
Take
it.
that.
Oh, thanks, bro.
No, bukkake is not an anime term. It is a gross term.
But yeah, did you? So it's hard to figure out if it was like a friend's post.
Yeah,
or not?
because I accidentally reloaded Facebook, so it's just gone into ethos.
Oh,
So I have
yeah,
to like
word.
research for it and shit. But
1 minute. Rings nearby.
Sniper Prowler SMG here. Ultimate accelerant here.
so after this match, I shall do that. He needs what? Optics for an SMG. Use your fucking eyes, bro. Oh, I think
I hear
I
a
was gonna say
red
the same
ship.
thing. I don't see it though.
Where's? You prompted me to say what I said. To be honest, I don't see where the freaking ship is. Though.
Me neither.
Ultimate accelerant here. The ring was over there.
Oh, somebody was over in the barn. Disco Inferno is running away from us.
Just Disco Inferno.
Oh, looks like
I remember that shit from when I was like 16 years old.
Using a med. 1 sec.
you a old asshole.
Cancel that.
Oh, bitch. You know, I taught some shit to some fool on Facebook the
And
other
then he
day.
showed up at my house.
Some stranger. Right. But like, some other dude that agreed with his retarded point of view. Oh, yeah, I called somebody a retard, okay? And to be honest, retarded is a clinical term that was... There's a thing called the well, you know what? I'm not even going to get into all this philosophical shit, but I called somebody a retard and it was meant with no offense to people who are actually mentally disabled, okay? It was just calling somebody a retard because they're fucking retarded, okay? But like, some guy, okay, I'm 38 years old, and some guy said to me, imagine being 60 years old and still using the word retard. And I was like,
What?
imagine telling someone who's obviously younger than you that you're 5 years older than them. And I couldn't reply to the shit because it said the comment had been deleted or some shit on Facebook. And I really don't know what my point with all this is, but it was funny because it was a guy who was obviously at least my age or older, telling me I look like I'm 60 years old, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You've seen my
Yeah,
pictures,
you definitely
Joe.
did not look like.
I know I've got my problems, but I don't look like 60.
My problems.
It's like, you know.
Oh, man. Oh, Jesus.
It's like you gotta have some backup to your insults, you know.
Yeah.
Because this guy did look. I mean, he looked pretty trail worn, to be honest.
I know I got my problems, but he needs to come with some real insults.
Yeah, I mean, come on, don't. You can't be gaslighting me, bitch.
Oh, there's a
Flatline here. Kicks like a mule, but hits even harder.
and a ship
Oh,
over there.
shit,
There's a
what
flat
is
line
that?
up here.
Oh, I kind of want that. I kind of want that instead of the Prowler.
Grapple your ass up there and get that stuff. You don't want to go chase these guys? Disco Inferno? You're killing me, Disco Inferno. What are you doing? I pinged a ship, bro.
Oh, it's where you pinged where the enemies were
Yeah,
at?
there's bad guys that way.
He just disappeared.
And he's just like running this way.
Alright.
He's like, I don't want to fight. I just want to loot all this stuff so I can just put it all in one place when the enemies kill me. And he skipped this building, which had 2 fucking med kits, 3 med kits, and a big shield thing up here. What? This guy is a douche. Bang.
What a douche.
Popping smoke, because I'm just partying up here by myself.
I'm 1 level below you here.
Okay. There's people at the end of the street.
Target over there.
Alright.
Hostile spotted. Enemy spotted.
Oh yeah, I see him, I see him.
I just threw my special at them.
Body on my mark. Firing for effect.
They're sniping at us. Oh,
Hit him
but you
for-
sniping at them. Nice.
47 or something.
Close proximity. Less than 1 minute.
Airstrike
Yeah, I
right
threw
above
that
us.
at them.
I'm trying to follow you. Oh, okay. I'm following you.
I'm zipping up to this roof.
Right. Coming right behind you. They might be in the building with us.
Oh my god, you're sending out your fucking drone? You are the worst.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a blue knockdown shield for you.
Level 2. Gonna need one of these if you're bleeding out.
Thanks.
Dude,
I hear him, dude. I hear him
yeah, all I
around
hear
us.
is this fucking drone.
I got eyes on this area.
Dude, it sounds like on the same level, but obviously not. They must be on the stairs. Or something. I guess you can only expect so
Oh,
much
they're
out of
zipping up, I think.
the entry-level surround sound headset. Yep.
Oh, they're coming up the steps too. I'm down. Get that Gibby! Get that Gibby!
Fuck. Oh, I hit him twice with the flatline, point blank. Get him, teammate. Get him, you pussy. Come on. Depussify yourself and kill these people.
Contact with target. Contact with hostile.
You know, I
He's
don't
saying
think
he needs
Disco
light
Stew
ammo.
is
Are you
gonna rescue
fucking kidding
us.
me?
Oh my god. My game
'Cause
is frozen. My game's frozen because it's so disgusted at this fucking little bastard.
Yeah, loot. You.
Dude, this kid's a mile away from. Oh my god, dude. All right, I'm
Yeah,
losing the match
we're in the
because
storm.
there's no
He's
possible
hiding
chance
behind
he'd come back and yeah.
Oh my god.
He's a cave dweller,
He's...
and we're warriors, and he's not going to help us. Where is Grim? I blame Grim for this. I do. I know it's petty, but I blame him.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, are you still in the
I want
game?
to watch him die so I can type haha at him.
Yeah, I don't mind. I was just, I was just wondering.
So he said he needs light ammo, and he just opened a bin that had light ammo. There was light ammo right there. Why didn't you pick up that light ammo that you needed so bad you didn't help us?
What a dumbass.
There was light ammo right there. Why
Kid,
didn't you
you're
pick
acting-
up that light ammo? You needed it so bad you didn't help us. This voice to text doesn't.
He's good enough to
seem be
ping
working.
something.
I don't know.
Oh, you're using the voice.
That's
to
what
type
popped
thing,
up,
huh?
so I figured I'd give it a try.
Yeah. You know, that's popped up for me before, and like, I thought it would like default to the keyboard, but it doesn't.
Oh, he's hiding next to a rock. Oh my god, I can't. I can't. I want to watch him fucking fail at life so I could laugh at his children and shit. But...
Right.
Oh my goodness.
You ever drink straight from a bottle of liquor and kind of feel like you're the equivalent to a pirate?
Yes to the first half, no to the second.
I mean, it's just like being a murderer with your cutlass and eating hardtack.
To what?
Time to put some lead downrange.
It's just like murdering people with your cutlass and eating the fucking hardtack, like the pirate biscuit that's like some kind of stale fucking cracker or something. I don't know, look up hardtack, you'll understand me. Read Treasure Island, you'll get it.
Alright, so I gotta read a novel to get the joke.
It's a short novel. It's like a young adult novel.
Legend? Sometimes we are someone we are not.
It's one of those novels they recommend to you in like junior high.
Yeah.
Or something, I
Some
don't know.
shit like that. Let's go.
Maybe my brain is just junior high level because I've been drinking all this brandy like a pirate.
Revert my brain cells back to junior high level.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like it's like eternal youth or something.
Yeah. Oh, so I don't know if I told you that I've been trying to draw something every day.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, just the when we were all
Yeah,
three
so
playing
I
it.
haven't drewn anything yet today or yesterday, I think. And
So you gotta do 2 draws
yeah,
today.
so I gotta do some draws at some point. But I forget. Oh, I had an idea of because like part of my biggest problem with drawing is like coming up with stuff to draw that'll be cool and whatever.
Oh, definitely. That's like, I agree. That's my biggest.
Right. So like, if I had like, and I've seen actually a YouTube creator, Jazza, that I like. He's an art guy. He's oh shit.
Oh shit!
I'm coming.
I'm listening
I'm coming.
to you.
We'll talk later.
We'll just. Oh, this guy's hurt real bad. Oh, he just picked up blue armor though.
That's my blue armor. You motherfucker.
He on my box though.
Are we coming?
His health is hurt
We
somewhat.
coming? Oh, I hear somebody grappling.
Yeah, that was our teammate just above you. I think he's getting attacked on your level, Joe.
Hell, are you kidding me?
Oh, there's two guys.
Are you fudging kidding me?
Come on, grassy old Dan. You're old enough to make Kennedy assassination references. You better be old enough to fucking hold your shit in a first-person shooter. No, you're not. You just got killed by 3 dudes, pussy. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. It was. I'm blaming it on grassy old Dan, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry.
Definitely.
I was listening to what you were saying about drawing.
So I was thinking, so this guy Jazza on YouTube, who I watch and I follow, and like he's an Australian guy. He's entertaining and he's a very good artist. He like taught himself, didn't go to school, like taught himself how to draw like through the years, and like in high school and stuff. Like he made animations and games for like Newgrounds and stuff. But anyway, so he has an app, which now that I have a little bit of money, I think I'm actually gonna buy. It's like an RD Games app, so it's not a drawing app, but it's just like it's a randomizer of different things to draw. So it's kind of like it gives you scenarios, things like that. So I'm thinking about buying it, but anyway. That gave me an idea. I'm like, how else could I randomize like what I'm gonna draw? So like I'm going through like the 2019 Inktober stuff, so I'm drawing one of those a day. And I had an idea to do a comic, to make like a web comic for since it's hard to come up with like an idea for myself, for a podcast that I listen to, the No Sleep podcast. So they tell like horror stories, and I thought if I could figure out a way to do that in comic form, I think that would be like a good challenge that would teach me a whole lot in the process. Yes.
Podcast or something?
Yes, yeah, of each story. So like in the beginning they told, I think it was like 1 story per episode, but then like in the laters they did like 5 stories if you had the premium pack, if you paid for it, but you can get like 3 out of 5 stories a week for free. So if I listen to, because there's some that like I really like I used to listen to it religiously, and I'm getting back into it. I listen to it at night to go to bed. So if I could do that, I think that would teach me a whole lot. But then, so I was kind of in this comic mindset, and I was thinking about like making a comic of like myself and doing that. So just kind of spitballing ideas. I thought about like a comic of like the 3 of us. I don't know what we'd be doing or what would be interesting. Oh shit! Somebody right in front of me.
Oh, that's. Oh shit! Yeah, I'm on you. Oh shit! He's in his shield. He's in his shield. I've hit him. I got him. I got him. There's another one in there. Another one in there.
She's right here.
Oh shit! 2 more. Got him. 1 more. He's on special K.
Okay.
Oh, there's 2 more dudes. It's a different squad.
Nice.
Yep. Okay, 1 down.
No, it killed the whole. Okay,
here.
it killed that squad because somebody else turned to a box.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah.
He's down, so he's got teammates with him somewhere.
Putting light down range. Tango down.
Where did that one guy run and go? I don't see him.
I don't know. I hear him.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
he's right here. Yeah.
Wait a.
Sucky eye. I'm gonna recover our dude shit.
Okay.
But yeah, you were thinking of. Oh, by the way, Joe, before you even continue, man, touch my heart. You say 3 of us.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So the 3 of
were
us. And I
saying-
don't know how to like what we would be doing. What would be interesting enough for anybody to ever like read it. But so like for me,
Yeah,
I've been
with that.
associated with a bear for like all of my life. So that's easy. Grim, obviously the Grim Reaper or some sort of Grim Reaper character makes sense. But I don't. So I was putting some thought into like what you would be, and I
got
have
no idea.
either. But so
Heavy ammo here.
I was fucking around with Kim, just like saying nonsense at her because I do that sometimes. And I I was saying like she had pretend knees. And
Wait.
pretend knees.
What?
Like she had make believe knees, and
That's pretty
and
funny.
I said I forget what I was saying because it was nonsense. It wasn't really making sense. But I said something about pretend knees, and then about shit. I forget if it was cheddar cheese or cheese whiz. I forget. But then I was thinking like, since like I don't know what
We're
you
inside the ring.
what would
Got the positional advantage.
be a visualization of the 0 hour. I was thinking, I almost said it to her, but like I was gonna ask her. I'm like, you think Zero would be offended if like I drew him as like cheese whiz? But she would have had no input in that, so I didn't even ask her. But
Use that.
would you be offended if I drew you as cheese whiz?
No, it's acceptable, but you know, I was just thinking like, okay, 0 hour means like something to the effect. And by the way, when I came up with the name 0 hour when I was like 16 or 17 years old or some shit, but it was just 0 hour, not the 0 hour. But like, there was already some 0 hour on Xbox Live, so I had to let him know that I was the original creator of that
0
shit.
hour.
So I was the 0 hour. So like, but like it just means like the moment when something happens or something, or when something begins, like a countdown to a rocket launching or something. So, for instance, I could be a rocket, but a rocket looks exactly the same as a Cheese Whiz can, so a Cheese Whiz can is totally acceptable.
I mean, I don't think it looks that much like a cheese whiz can, but
Well, think
been
of, I mean,
wrong before.
look at a Falcon 9. Look at a Falcon 9 and look at the silhouette and compare it to a Cheese Whiz can and see if you still
I
think
see.
that way. I mean, that's all I gotta
so
say.
yeah, okay. As a can,
You got a nose
as like
cone.
a, yeah.
You got a
I
little
was thinking like
proboscis.
the
from
jar
fucking-
of cheese whiz is what I was envisioning, but yeah, the can I could see that.
Oh, right. That
Oh,
was, yeah,
Mr. Special
I
K
see
ran
what you're
away
saying.
and got died.
Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't have been a bitch. I'm coming to you. I'm
Yeah, I don't know where he just pinged.
100 yards behind you.
Oh, there's a blue bag over here if you're interested in that shit.
Oh, I already got like a purple or something somehow. Okay, I'm coming. I'm right behind
Okay.
you.
Alright.
I'm with you.
Oh, hey, they are shooting at me.
Oh shit, dude, up here on the horizon.
I just threw my
Oh,
special
fuck, he
at
fucked
them.
me up.
Old Painless is waiting.
So be mindful of the rockets, 0 hour.
Oh, he threw like a shit at me. Oh, I'm Joe. I'm completely fucked up. Dude, right here.
Giving him the shim.
Oh shit, he's behind.
Oh
right here.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of screwed
Oh
there.
yeah. I done fucked up.
But yeah, just imagine a Cheese Whiz can being fucking recovered from a launch, you know, like the SpaceX rockets,
Yeah.
and the cheese whiz can would be completely acceptable to me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But so yeah, continue.
So yeah. So I don't know like what we would do. I don't know what would make. That's why like the doing the comic of like this podcast. It's already because the podcast is from like a subreddit, the No Sleep subreddit. So it's like people who write scary stories. Kind of
Okay.
kind of
Gotcha.
like what the fuck are they called? They are called creepypastas. So they're yes.
Spooky pasta?
Yes.
Creepy pasta,
So-
yeah.
So they're a lot like those. And but they're written specifically for this subreddit, I believe. And then one guy liked them enough and decided to turn it into a podcast where he just reads them. And it's actually it's pretty cool. Like so, like he did this, and in the beginning it was just him reading it. Like sometimes there were like other voice actors, but like rare. But now it's big enough that they have like a whole army of voice actors, and they have some people who write them specifically for the podcast. And
Hit the jets. We're dropping hot.
they say at the beginning or end of every podcast that like all stories are owned by the author, so like they don't take any rights of it. I mean, and like if you want to
Okay.
use anything, they have like a Creative Commons shit that
Oh
they.
shit. Yeah, I'm listening. 50 dude, 2 other
Yeah,
squad
shit just
members.
got crazy.
Okay. Oh shit, maybe 3. I'm running, but I'm listening to you, Creative
Yeah,
Commons
so,
license.
oh my god, whoa, we are like, there's people, I'm fighting somebody and being shot at, I'm running away.
Yeah, 2 or 3 squads.
Yeah,
I don't
me
even have a
neither.
gun
I
or
barely picked up
anything
the
yet.
vest.
Okay, I got a gun. Okay,
I'm
where are you? Where
taking
are you?
the
I'm
zip
coming
line
to you.
away. Oh no, I'm going right here to these
All right.
bins.
Let's relocate here.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Oh, no gun.
Carrying you like Kevin Costner carried Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard.
Catching up.
I can appreciate it. Alright, I'm going back
I
here.
hear.
I'm
Oh, I
falling.
think that's our
Yeah, I'm falling
teammate
back
out
over
here.
here.
Okay.
He dropped it. Oh, okay, he said heavy ammo. Hopefully there's a...
I'm incredibly
There's a gun
drunk right
over here.
now. Okay,
Hopefully.
I'm right behind you.
Body shield here. Level 2.
Blue body shield. You know, you can
Go
pick it up.
for it.
I don't even have a gun.
Knockdown shield.
Go for
Oh, 2 longbows with that heavy ammo.
Okay, thank you. I would give you.
Yeah,
oh, here's a
I'm gonna take
20.
that.
Here's a. Oh well. Here's a.
Yeah,
fucking
I got a longbow and a
longbow.
2020. So, I
Okay,
can at least
good.
defend myself.
Oh, I thought that was our dude that threw down that shit. Okay. Oh yeah, I see him. Okay. You want to go to the right and like intercept
Yeah.
that?
Sorry, I just want to see if I can make that shot, which I cannot.
I'm sure it was within an inch of
Oh, he's
an
right
instant
there.
death shot. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
somebody else over there. Oh my god.
Oh, you didn't survive long, kid. Oh yeah, okay.
Nice. I need.
Oh, our fucking teammate pooped on him.
Is there a gun I can swap this 2020 for?
The ring is close.
Yes, an alternator. I will take it. Oh, a 301 actually. I'll take the 301.
Yeah.
Charge right over here.
Oh, there's like no light ammo. Whatever. One problem at a time.
Rings close.
I finally have some guns I can work with. I'll have to earn my ammo.
Yeah, I don't have any light yet. I was going to give you some if I had it, but I don't.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, yes.
Here's that's only 11. That's only
right.
11.
As of now, I have a clip plus 2. So I'll take the 11.
Oh, yeah.
I have heavy ammo, so I can get by. Oh, here we go. There's a flatline. I'll just swap my longbow for that.
Hemlock, longbow.
Now that heavy ammo makes more of a difference.
I've got like 1 gun and 60 rounds of heavy.
I can drop you some heavy. I actually have 200 heavy rounds.
Oh, sweetness. Okay. Yeah, don't cripple yourself. I just picked up a piece of
Alright, I have shotgun ammo too. Alright, so you see where I'm at? Alright. So take the shotgun and take that.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and you just pinged a shotgun bolt for your peacekeeper.
Oh shit. Going for it.
Oh, a purple shotgun bolt. Oh.
I'm drunk AF right now. My goodness.
I could see that being a shirt. People would probably buy that, right? Drunk AF.
I'm still trying to figure out if cheap brandy or light beer is cheaper, but I'm trying to look at it from a calorie perspective right
then
now.
I would say the brandy and the Coke Zero is the way to keep your girlish figure. Oh, there's a ship over by Slendy. That direction.
Let's check out this area.
All right. I'm jumping up to the zip line.
I'll meet you up with him over around there. Let's get it. Right. Fat Boy Friday is in full effect.
Fat Boy Friday in your face, fucker.
Heard that.
Alright. He's saying that they're in that building.
Oh shit. Kids. Yeah, bitch. You shouldn't have ambushed me. You should got killed because you's a bitch.
Get all your loot up.
Scoot up in the loot up.
Are you done? Is the rest free for all? Oh, he's trying to get it. I gotta grab some shit.
Fat Boy Friday in your face, fucker, is no way intended to imply that the viewers of Mechanics Podcast are fuckers.
It's not a podcast, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's quite alright. I see him.
That's the kind of thing you say when you're drunk AF.
Drunk AF, shoot him in the back AF.
Reloading.
I'm with you, Joe. Oh. I'm getting shot.
Oh, I hit him for one more bullet.
Chasing this fool. Oh. Don't you run? Don't you run from us?
I'm coming back around to you.
Work, bro.
Oh, he just...
Taking fire.
He AF'd me up. F'd up, AF'd.
I'll fake you out with my drunken 70 IQ, bitch. Get some. Oh, he took some instead of got some. He's hurt though. I hit him.
He's dead. Or he's knocked. He's not dead.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, Fast Legs is knocked.
He's hurt. I'm sure.
No, Fast Legs is dead.
Confirm kill.
Hell yeah, Joe executed that bitch.
Oh, he had a gold stabilizer. Oh shit.
Yes.
Where's... Oh, we only got 35 seconds. Shit. I'm gonna bring all your good heals and your heavy ammo. Do you want a flatline or a Spitfire?
Flatline.
Okay.
Whatever
Well,
you're
I'm
feeling,
gonna bring it.
though.
I'm gonna bring it for you.
Just, you know.
Oh shit! Somebody's landed on me.
Yeah, take care of yourself above me, bro. Cause I died doing what I loved. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah. Sucking cock and smoking crack.
I don't know which one paid for the other.
Oh. Alright, I threw my specials and that looks like it held them off long enough. Alright, here we go. Oh. Get some, bruh.
Oh yeah, pooped on.
Usually carry rare platforms. Tango
Claim
down.
your kill like a Klingon warrior, motherfucker. Yeah. Oh, what the fuck? Put up your shield. Death, bitch.
Front kill.
Good shit, Joe. Good shit.
Whoops.
That was the last of them. Another squad bites the dust.
You were kicking the ass, though.
Yeah, I just...
That's undeniable. You got any viewers on your
Oh, circle.
various streaming platforms?
Tell you 1 second. Let me get... Alright, cool. Yeah, it looks like there's one person somewhere.
Cool. I can't be casting these verbal gems if you got no viewers.
I hear you, bro.
I mean,
Well, I appreciate the verbal gems. It means the world to me.
it's a collaboration. I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm happy with this. With this game, I got me 3 kills.
yeah, you're doing good.
Alright, so I got a flatline for you. Once you drop.
Hey, you bought that Xbox digital edition
Yeah.
or whatnot? Is that the same thing as an Xbox One S, but just the digital edition instead of the one with the
Yes.
optical drive? Oh hell yeah!
Oh, here.
Okay.
He dropped some stuff for you up here. Did you pick this stuff up?
Oh, that's cool. Okay, okay.
Oh, he just picked it up. But whatever, here, you can take this.
He dropped
Yeah,
it and picked it up.
That's
Thank
all you. Take all that.
Oh hell
Don't
yeah!
let him get that.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's really all I need right there. Hell yeah. Except for an armor, and I'll
Let's find
find
some
that
right here.
when
I got
can.
some heals I can drop for you as well.
Oh, dude, that's a sweet. Thanks for getting that gun for me.
Yep.
Muy importante.
I dropped heals for you. Come get these.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Hey, you motherfucker! Quit picking shit up. I'm the dead guy. Okay.
He's the dead guy, man.
Fucking.
Don't mention it.
What's his name? Slendy197.
Slendy McSlenderson.
Dude, if you don't have the fucking creativity,
What? What's
come
up,
up with a
babe?
motherfucking name for yourself.
You doing what? Right. Right. Okay.
Slendy is engaging.
Rings moving. Hustle up.
Okay.
Oh shit. Oh, I got fucked up. Oh my god. I'm crawling toward you, Joe. I got fucked up with the airstrike. Yeah, I'm behind this
got you.
rock.
And then we gotta go get Slendy McSlenderson. You need to,
Here, I'm throwing
Yeah.
out the heal block.
and then yeah, start. You don't have any shields.
Oh shit. The zone's here. Oh my god. Okay, I'm running. I'm running as fast as I fucking can. Okay. Oh shit. Oh my god, I died. Joe,
No, I'm dead.
no,
There's
you can't
3 of them.
destroy, bro. Oh, Well, there are two guys, yeah, three guys concentrating their fire on you, so I guess there's something you can't destroy, but that applies to all of us.
Slendy McSlenderson was fucking
Slendy.
shit up for us.
Slendy can go
Yeah.
fuck himself. Yeah, he was, but still, he can go fuck himself.
Ruined my life.
Was your special lady saying something that applied to both of
No,
us?
she was saying, just I'm telling you now.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow when you're working on the bookshelf, you have Opie duty. I guess Opie's driving her nuts out there.
Because you pick up Opie's duty.
Yeah, that's gonna be part of it. That's gonna be part of it.
At least it's fucking Opie and not Clint Howard, but
One thing is certain.
Obadiah Caldoggo, first of his name.
you ever seen any of the Phantasm movies?
No, can't say that I have.
Oh no, I'm wrong. Okay, my bad. Fucking Opie's brother isn't in the Phantasm movies. He's in fucking the Ice Cream Man, which is kind of similar to the. I'd have to explain it. It's too much to explain. I can't explain it.
Hey, I'm the jump master.
You just have to know the history to understand it. So, yeah, I'm going to take another drink of brandy here.
Yeah, this brandy is insane. It makes me want to try some brandy. Because, like, you go from, like, okay to, like, slurring your words, like, in, like, 2 games.
It takes extreme concentration to not slur my words, bro. If you read the novel Huck Finn and read about Huckleberry Finn's dad's delirium tremens from drinking too much alcohol, you'll understand.
First blood. FNG's always
Oh,
good first.
yo, bud, yo, whoa, who you shooting? Who you shooting, bro? I got more bullets than you.
Oh
I got
shit.
way more bullets than
Killing,
you.
bro, I just got a fist. I'm ready to fist
He's down
somebody
here.
for you,
Fist
bro.
him. Fist him.
Right behind you.
Fist him.
Tango near
Actually, I gotta perform a finishing move.
Oh, boom.
I gotta. Yeah.
Finish that.
That's one of my daily challenges. I forgot.
We're inside the next ring.
Oh yeah.
He's got a P2020 in there.
I'm taking his 2020. Yep. Another kid right here.
Damn, he fucked me up.
Oh, I had to reload. No.
That sucks.
Apparently our bitch ass teammate was drinking brandy too.
I think he got jumped on the way down.
Oh, 208. Good shit.
208, that's amazing.
You did. Well, you did more than a kill of a guy with purple armor when you had, like, you know, just shit off like 10 seconds after
Yeah,
the drop.
that is
So
true. That is true. That is true.
I feel like I'm an alcoholic right now, but at the same time, like,
You're not
when I got pretty sick a couple months ago, I went 10 days without alcohol, you know, without a problem because I was taking antibiotics that counteracted it. So, like, can you call yourself an addict of something that you can go 10 days without on the fly, you know? I don't know. It's very complicated. It's a complicated
Definitely,
issue.
when I was an addict, I couldn't. There's no way I would have stopped doing drugs for some bitch ass antibiotics. I can tell you that much.
Right. I mean, have you ever sucked a dick for weed?
Once, but
So
I
to
don't
speak,
like to talk
you know?
about
I mean, well, yeah. It was a small dick, so you know, it kind of resembled a clit.
it.
So
Yeah,
it's like,
I mean, pretty close.
This is your champion. I did it, Papa.
Yeah.
Wherever you are,
I feel like there's an adult audience for your channels, Joe. I mean,
I'm the jump master.
I don't know. I mean, we got to be at least 80% as funny as the people that could could watch you, you know.
I would say so. I think we are. I definitely enjoy like watching my streams. I'm not animated enough. I need to be more.
Indeed.
Bugger. But I think there is an audience. All right, we'll go there. We'll go there, buddy. I think there is an audience. I need to figure out. I need to figure out how to find them on Facebook. What I need to actually like look for so I can run some targeted ads against them.
Do you have any of your high school yearbooks?
I don't know. Why?
You fucking bastard. No, I was just saying, like,
You were just calling me an asshole, but
if you could reach out to some of your, yeah, fucking asshole. But like, oh shit,
Yeah.
hold up.
Yeah, I'll have a gun.
Action time to kill.
Just us now.
Oh, I'm dead, man. There's 50 people. There's 3 people in this room, I'm in. It went from 50 to 3, but
I'm leading on them.
still.
I'm leading them on a wild goose chase.
There's a dude executing me, but there's like 1 or 2 other dudes
Yeah, I'm being
in the
chased
room.
by somebody with a gun. So I'm gonna do what I can. I'm definitely gonna come back. I just hopefully I won't come back empty-handed. Oh my God, there's somebody in this truck.
So, I want you to know there's no judgment right now because I'm equally as drunk, you know, as like the top 10. I'm really fucking drunks in my life right now. So, I can't blame you for anything, basically. So, if you get 0 damage, I'm going to kind of think of you as Superman right now.
Well, good, because I got
So,
0 damage.
It's all good.
So.
Oh shit!
So.
Oh shit! I didn't expect it to be that perfect. Well, I got 0 kills, so it's pretty close. But I'm still number 1 out of our squad of 3 because our other guy got 48
Yeah, he was
damage.
a punk.
And I got 49 damage.
I mean,
so that's just, you know, natural ability shining through. But
I'd
at the
have
same
to
time,
agree.
you,
No,
you feel me.
100%.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, actually, your headset's starting to get a little buzzy. Whatever you
All right, I'll
fix
turn it off and
fine.
on.
Thank you, buddy. Feel my shit.
Isn't he
Yes,
better
it
now?
is. Phenomenally better.
I almost started the drink, but like when you were telling me that, I stopped drinking a second and I closed my eyes and I'm incredibly fucking drunk. Okay, so like if I had children, I'd be abusing them right now. I'd probably be beating them. So
I'm so drunk I'd have no choice but to hit my children.
where my pets at? Where my puppies to kick?
They
Oh,
are
shit.
under the couch.
That's a little joke. That's a little joke. I'd never kick.
I only kick grown-ass dogs.
Right. I'd kick the puppy with my. I mean, I would pet the puppy with my foot, but I wouldn't kick him.
I'd pet him nice and hard in his ribcage with my shoelaces.
This is your champion.
When I was working that little UPS temp job, like we were in this business, and like the business owner had like a dog she was babysitting that was like maybe in like a 90-pound
This area.
golden retriever type dog or something along
Yeah,
those
yeah.
lines. And like their owner had a harness on him that had like a handle on the top that you could like hold them
Okay.
back with.
Here we go. Ready?
And it was funny, like me and the dude I was driving with, like walked in the business, and the dog was all wanting to play and shit. And it's like a dog so big you gotta put you gotta like Velcro a handle to his ass to control him. And like he was all jumping up on us and shit. We were you know kind of petting it and stuff, and you know, and like But it was kind of funny because it was like say a 70-year-old lady babysitting the dog and controlling it and shit. And it's just kind of funny because like it's like a dog big enough you have to put a handle on it
Yeah.
to fucking control it.
Yeah. And
And I think Opie's
oh shit,
probably
there's
the
a
same
squad
way.
in the back. Squad in the back. None of us have guns. We should just.
Oh shit, no gun. I'm dead. That was. I gotta look at the death rate gap. That was so quick. Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna do my. Oh my god, there's a squad down here too.
What?
I'm dead. Motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Our teammate got a blue armor, so it's basically his responsibility if we die right now.
Yeah, 100%.
It's basically Ayo Little Man's responsibility right now. The blame is
So
completely
I
on
just
his
realized it
shoulders.
is almost 1 o'clock. I got one more game in me. I have to be in work at 7, so I got one more game.
Oh, Toads.
Toad's understandable.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. If you want to go right now, I mean it. I mean, I don't mind at all. I completely understand. I've been there
We can do
myself.
one more game. I didn't give the viewer,
All right.
the singular viewer, time to prepare for our departure. So I need to let them know that
Right.
we're gonna be going.
You want to just leave the match and start another one?
Nah, he got our banners.
This fucking rando's
You got
not
our
gonna pick
banners.
us up.
I don't know if he can. I don't know if he
Oh,
can
he
get
did?
to
Okay,
a
okay. I'm
revive,
here.
but you got our banners.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I'm pinging a respawn point. Just let him know.
Let's explore this way.
My IQ has, declined to like 80 right now. Maybe 80.
Maybe 80. So, I have a thing for stationery. I'm sure this has come up in all of our gaming together. I really like pens and stuff.
Oh no.
Let's explore this way.
And like
Okay,
really
okay.
good paper. If it's like pens, it's like they pretty good pens I'm impressed with. A really good pen like I'm in love with. But like really good paper, like I have a notebook that I've bought. I've never seen it before until I bought it probably like a year ago, and I've only used a couple pages out of it. It wasn't that expensive, but I bought it at like Walgreens, and it's like an Oxford notebook. And the paper was made of stone or some shit. That's like how it was advertised on like the stuff with it. But it's like super smooth. Like it's incredibly smooth. So like I've only used a couple pages, and like it hurt me to use them. And like and I've looked for it other places.
You gotta think of something
Right.
good to draw.
Like, and I've looked for other stuff, like bigger, because it's a small book. It's only like a 5x8 maybe, or 5x7 little notebook. So I've looked for other stuff, like
Okay.
a bigger version. I can't find it. But I just saw them again at Walgreens, the same size, and they're like $4 or something. So I'm gonna use it one of these days. But like it's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. But anyway, so I say all that to say this, that I think we're being shot. Yeah, we're being shot. We are being shot.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Somebody's
Where
over there.
is-
Oh my god, somebody's over there.
Oh shit. I'm trying to
Get in this building.
Oh shit, there should be there. Oh,
Where's
fuck,
that
I'm
vest
dead.
teammate ping?
Save yourself, bro. I disappointed myself just then. There's like 3 guys on my box, dude.
Alright, let me see if do I have any. I don't have any heals. Alright. That's it. We're going ham and potatoes.
Hell yeah.
We're not going ham potatoes. We're going like ham and sauerkraut. Ham and sauerkraut. That sucks. Oh, there are two squads fighting there.
Let's hope our fucking teammate is a badass that isn't under the
Nope,
influence
he
of
died.
alcohol.
Like, you didn't even finish your sentence and he died.
I did 0 damage on that.
Very nice, very nice. Alright. So
bro.
one more game, viewer. Prepare yourself. You have to go.
Alright, alright. And what were you saying,
so
bro?
I said all that about my stationary fixation to say this. I am now getting ads on my Facebook for custom pens. So I can create, I don't know how many pens, but it's $100.
Oh my gosh.
Free shipping. And I can get, it says, did you forget your pens? Don't worry. They're all still waiting for your beautiful logo. We like to think of promotional items as small billboards without a huge advertising cost. So finish up your mini billboard with free shipping on $99 plus today at the National Pen Company. So oh, they do more than pens. I clicked on the Facebook page and it looks like they do bags too. Business cards.
By the way, I meant to look this up earlier myself, but like, did you happen to look up those Prisma pencils and how much they cost or anything like that?
About them, but I shall.
All right, okay. I was just wondering. I forgot to do it myself. Hey, you know, I'm getting a pseudo 3D effect from my eyes crossing from this pirate brandy I beat. So
well, this is the last game, so
I'm probably going to be the kill leader this game, but I don't know. Oh shit! Dude's landing with me. Ah, give me the rope.
I tried to turn around and I missed grabbing it again.
Oh no! I landed in a fucking box with a dude that was already here. I'm drunk, jumping out. Rapido. And I'm not even where I thought it was.
Alright, I got an alternator. It is fucking on Donkey Kong.
That's fucked up. My fucking fast legs, dude. When my like fast running syringe ran out, he like does a fucking, he spins the syringe on his finger like you're spinning a basketball, okay? So this game basically promotes drug use to the children, and I'm uncomfortable with that.
That was terrible.
And I got fucking
terrible
killed. Okay. I got one more.
I'll do one more. That was too
if
shitty.
You don't
too shitty.
that,
we're doing it again.
Alright.
So
you're just gonna have to drink some coffee in the morning.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do some shit. Smoke some crack.
Right, you know, whatever.
Whatever
gets you going in the morning.
Alright, so it looks like Prismacolor pencils are... What? That doesn't even tell me how many is in a pack. But anyway, looks like you can get... Why are you not giving me a number of this pack? They have all types of prices here. Alright, I'm just gonna have to click on this shit. Michaels has a $65 set. Doesn't, I'm clicking on it to see how many are in there. $65 buys you 48 pencils. So that's not bad. Especially to get it to look like they got it to look.
Trust your senses, and victory will follow.
Yeah, like, you know, $1.15 a pencil or something like that. Not exactly, of course, but that's drunk
There's
math.
also from this.
No.
I guess it's from Zorro.com, which I don't know what Zorro.com is. You can buy a 150 pack for $207.
Introducing your champion.
That's a lot of color pencils.
Okay. So,
I'm a master this time.
Okay.
So, wait a minute.
$207.
150 for
Yeah,
200.
$207 for 150
Okay.
pencils.
Here we go. Ready?
So 75 for 100. So 75 cents a piece, basically. So that's not so
Yeah,
bad.
no, that's. I mean,
Yeah,
especially
bad.
if you can make it look as good as that shit that you showed me. Which I don't see why they would lie about that, unless that was all just
Yeah.
one big ad
Yeah,
for
I wish I had that
Prisma
kind of fucking
pencils. I
talent.
don't know.
So I could fucking draw Toothless from fucking
How to Train Your Dragon.
Netflix series of unknown title or Stranger Things for 75 cents a marker. I mean a color pencil. God damn it, I'm
When you said
drunk.
Toothless, I was like, oh, from How to Train Your Dragon, because like Toothless is the name of a character in a whole other show. But you were talking about the poor kid who's.
It's also the name of a character in Stranger
Isn't it?
Things.
I don't think his
I haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon, but I'd
His-
probably like it. I
his
like that
name's
kind
not
of shit.
Toothless in Stranger Things. I don't think.
It definitely. What's his nickname?
Is it? I just don't remember anybody calling him Toothless. But I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
He definitely is Toothless. And
Yeah, the fucking, yeah, the kid that's toothless is, the bullies call him
no,
toothless.
I did not realize that. I've watched all of the
Because
seasons.
he's all gum.
He's all goes. He probably gets one mean blowjob.
Oh, gosh. The priests are pleased with him.
Yes,
Okay.
they are. They definitely would be. He'd be getting all the good masses.
Hell Marvin full of gums. Okay. Oh man, that makes me kind of want to throw up that I made that joke, but
I mean,
I'm drunk right now,
it's
so
cool.
it's cool.
Just drink away all your problems.
Yeah. Catholic blowjob molester jokes. Oh
And
yeah,
they're always the way to go.
it's all cool.
They're always crowd pleasers. Just like Toothless.
I'm probably on a watch list now.
I mean, you're joking about the priests who did it. And they're not on any watch list.
Yeah, makes me kind of want to throw up, but it's
They
funny
just
at the
got
same
transferred to other churches.
time. right. Oh shit.
Let's see, you're using light? I got light bullets for you, bro. There's 80 light bullets.
Okay. I got quite a few if you.
Nah, I'm
if you need
energy
them,
and
but,
heavy.
all right.
I'm running 2 LMGs, because how can you go wrong with 2 LMGs?
Light ammo here.
I've got an ultimate accelerant if you feel like you could
Nah,
use it.
not particularly.
R99 here. Light ammo here.
Joe, I'll tell you, the rest of the painting in the room that I was
Right.
painting is just like Well, I guess I gotta tape some shit off, but like, it's just painting the walls, the main walls. And I don't feel like I have the skill to do that right now.
Yeah, I mean...
Just to be honest with you, I feel like some shit would get screwed up.
I
really do.
would definitely...
Maybe if I put an eye patch on and just looked out of one eye so I didn't see cross images, you know.
Aren't feeling it, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, nothing worse than, like, having to do more work.
I think I'll let it dry.
Because you weren't ready for...
You gotta be patient.
No, I'm all for it.
Close range.
I'm such a piece of shit. Oh my
What?
gosh.
Why are you a piece of shit?
I'm so fucking drunk right now that I'm just basically a piece of shit.
I mean, sure. I'm going up to the tower just to keep an eye on the comings and goings of shit.
Arc star here. Light ammo here. Light ammo here. Light ammo here. Light ammo here. Light
Anybody
ammo
need
here.
light ammo?
I don't know if is there a lot of ammo there?
Yeah, there's 1 or 5 boxes. Something like that. Oh, I see somebody.
Enemy over there.
Might be something good this way.
And maybe there's somebody standing on the roof. I can't really tell.
But
They definitely want to. Oh, they ran that way. Oh, and there's definitely somebody on the roof.
Enemy spotted.
Okay. I'm running toward that way. You
Let's
just
end this game now. I mean, kill all
Basically.
these guys.
I'm down to 40 IQ. I'm with you though. I'm right behind you.
Alright. Oh, he's going balls deep.
Oh, he's got the blue Tundra.
But why are you? You're in the wrong. What's happening? Why are you in the wrong building? Yeah.
Might be something good this way.
He's climbing the staircase and
Hostile. Enemy
Oh,
Coming back
they're alright.
now.
They're crossing the river.
Someone traveled through here recently. Target spotted.
Do we want to take the zip line? Okay, I guess we do. Blue Hunter's taking the zip line. Let's go.
I'm right behind you.
Zip line to the up and the.
blue Hunter.
Oh my God! It's all you,
Contact with enemy.
Cheese Whiz can.
I have no fucking
I mean,
ability left.
that was.
And I didn't know it until that very moment.
You did well for a can of Cheese Whiz.
I think I hit
So,
one shot.
I'm
Right.
impressed.
You basically did 400% more
I mean,
damage than
you
me.
did a
More than, actually more than 400%, but
you
know,
did a
close enough for rounding it off.
billion% more damage than Tupa Spidey.
Somebody who did no damage.
Tupa. What the fuck?
Tupa P Destructo? I don't know what the fuck that means. I'm sure that means something in fucking some language
It's
off Star
probably
Trek
like
that
Tupa
isn't an actual human
Destructo.
language, but right. I don't even know what
I don't know.
one
I mean,
is, but
Destructo makes it sound like
makes
it's
it
Spanish. I have no idea.
I agree, but then like
Okay. Well, I hear. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll be right back. All right, so, all right, my bad, I'm back. Yeah. Shit, really? He jumped in the party and... shit. Shit. That sucks. And he was like, nah, fuck that shit, I'm out, dog. I ain't got time for your shit, dog. Like, you call that a dick? This is a dick. Because he's Australian, get it? So. But yeah, no, yeah, I gotta go. Yes, exactly like their demigod Paul Hogan. Precisely. But yeah, I had to go because Opie, I heard Kim screaming at Opie, like, no, come on, you can't eat that, no. So I had to go and see what was happening. Turns out he was eating a Brillo pad. So, yes, yep. So, yeah, well, Chibs would have learned because he would have been like, oh, I don't want to eat the thing that killed my brother. So, yeah, he was eating a Brillo pad. Well, no. If Opie was eating a Brillo pad, Kim was able to get it off of him. But if she didn't get it off him, and you're saying he would have learned by dying. So then the lesson is Chibs is to learn because Opie dies from ingesting metal and soap. So, yeah. Yeah, whatever you do with your dog on the weekend, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they can learn things, but they just don't have common sense. Like they only, you know. Yeah, I know you wish you had pets so you could beat her when you're drunk. I know. I mean, whatever gets you through the night. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean that's what you paid the money for. Okay. 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 Yeah, I don't know if I will be on tomorrow. We talked about doing something. I don't remember what that was. I don't remember. But yeah, if not tomorrow, definitely no later than next week. I mean, Monday or Tuesday or something. I'll see you. Yeah. We can get messages instantly. Yeah. So. Yeah. The outer net. So. Yeah, we'll figure it out. The name. Alright, so yeah, I will thank you for the game, sir. I will talk to you soon. Adios. Peace out, Cub Scout. Alright, so people from lands unknown, I appreciate you, all of you, each and every single one of you for coming out. Whether my mic stand was broken or it's an arm dummy, it's not a stand. So whether it was Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you came out, I appreciate it. Apologies to Armored Ozzy for just missing you. Zero said you were just in a party and you left right before I came back. Issues with the dog. I heard Kim screaming, so I had to go see what that was about. And I would gladly stay on and play more games, but I actually have to be in work in less than 6 hours. So I gotta get some sleep. And I gotta do the accounting of the business when I get there. So I don't want to be passing out. I mean, so I want to be more functioning than I need to be when I process the truck. You know? So but yeah, so thank you for everybody that came out. I really do appreciate it. Again, my bad to Ozzy. Want to thank Zero for the games. I want to thank Zeddy for coming into the chat, always keeping it lively, and giving me a heads up about my stream being messed up. I don't know how long it was messed up for. Hopefully I got some good footage, some good content that I can at least turn into some clips for Monday's stream. And I will be back Monday around 10 o'clock. I'm gonna have to start doing them earlier because they're giving me a bunch of early shifts. So at least twice a week I gotta be in at 7 a.m. I think next week it's 3 days a week, and then days it's not 7, it's 8 usually. Sometimes it's evening shift on the weekend, but during the week it's always in the morning. So I may have to start getting on earlier, getting off earlier type of dealio. But either way, it'll be on my social media. Once I officially change it, I'll post it there. So yeah, thank you for everybody that came out. Thank you.